Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Final Fantasy Randomizer community presentation on RPG Limit Break. Tonight, the Duckling Derby continues with Race 3. We've got 4 runners on stream for you today, another 4 over on Speed Gaming 3. There are 22 runners total, all running this race at the same time, all trying to get some Final Fantasy Randomizer chops so they can show off what it's really all about. Here in the commentary booth, I'm RockSolid84. I'm joined by DVS7. We are also graduates of the Duckling program of the previous year. And I think it's interesting this year because we have some Ducklings who actually raced in the spring tournament and made brackets. In some cases, we have 2 on stream here. We've got Walls of Jericho and also, I believe it's Nightmare Phoenix was the other one that made brackets of 64, no small feat. So we should see some good running tonight. Don't think that these people are rank amateurs. So anyways, tonight's race is going to be an entrance floor shuffle, and we're going to talk a little bit about the blurstings and the party compositions. I'll introduce my co-commentator DVS7. DVS, how you doing tonight?
Good. Yo, rock solid. I had my whole brand name shift, so it's Devious RNG now.
Oh, okay, yes, no, my bad. You know, here I am going with the
cool.
old handle.
It's cool. So people know Devious DVS. You can call me DVS.
Well, but
anyway.
I also forgot the nickname because I should have introduced you as the professor.
Oh, damn! I forgot about that. Yeah. Good times.
Yep. So of course, go ahead.
So I was just gonna say, Hate the 13th, Walls of Jericho, Nightmare Phoenix. Those are all very famous. We've seen them race before. We've seen them try out for spring tournament. So many, as you said, one of the best opportunities is that you do, get the opportunity to run in your Duckling Derby. And if you're still very new and you are still getting your feet wet early in the Duckling Derby, you do have the opportunity to race in the next Duckling Derby. So we got a couple really good runners here to look at in those 3. And Jar Jar thinks I haven't been following very, very closely. But our Duckling program does show off some fantastic runners, and I'm excited to see how they perform.
Yeah, me too. And Devious, I'm just going to mention your voice is coming in and out a little bit. You mentioned that was an issue with some of your previous streams, so we can hear you, but it's gating you pretty aggressively. There might be something you could take a look at here. But while you do, let's take a look at these screens. Hate the 13th is off. Of course, they're all starting at the same time. We've got some Moogle sprites over on the left-hand side, but they're all running. That doesn't mean that they're running different party members. It's just an artistic thing. So we do see some different choices. Fighter mains on the right-hand side, supported by 2 black mages and a white mage. On the left-hand side, we've got a fighter main again with 2 red mages and a white mage. And with the Moogles, it's hard to tell, but it looks like a red mage, a black mage, maybe a fighter. I don't know what the second one would be. So interesting things though to point out. We've got Temper at level 1 Black Magic and Heal 3 at level 1 White Magic. So definitely some tools to start off this early game.
Yeah, I feel like that's always one of those things. You step into that very first magic shop and getting a little bit of a sigh of relief when you see something AoE and that heal free is nice. I do see that Scimitar +5, which is a fantastic early game weapon. With a huge strong blessing is going to make that a very nice sword for your fighters. And it looks like we have Mirage 1 in Area Castle, which is a pretty late game.
Yeah, a bit of a mixed blessing when you find a floor like this early on. It is great for experience if you can get that zap off on a few different high-level monsters. And they do have some good gear, so it may be possible, but probably going to be a lot of wiping here early on. Just want to do a quick update. Did get classes from Hate the 13th. He is running with a Thief at the top and a Fighter in slot 2, so nobody is going with Black Belt strats this time around.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. I feel black belts have definitely become a huge part of the meta recently, and they are a phenomenal class. It's very nice to see some fighters. You know, I see the fighter Oreo is very popular. I love the Thief. Anytime I'm running floor entrance, I love the Thief. I love seeing a Thief.
Yeah, Hate the 13th taken a little bit of a risk going with that red mage, black mage, eschewing the white mage and just saying, you know, I'll make do with what I have. Working out pretty well with that heal 3 and level 1 white magic, but access to life is going to be something that he's going to be looking for. Of course, we do have low encounter rate and we do have low boss scaling, so maybe a good party choice to just get around the world quickly and find what you need and get out of there.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to jump in, get like, especially when you're doing floor entrance, you can analyze your floors, you can dive deep, and then like you already have a lot of your power in your other classes, so it'll be interesting to see, especially in this case when we have a nice comparison, how Hate the 13th ends up using that. And I'm having some computer issues, so I can't quite see the other parties. But I'm definitely looking at that Thief and seeing how much of it is.
Yeah, I think the Thief is good. The only thing is, with such a low encounter rate, I wonder how useful the run chance is going to really be. I want to point out that we do have a vanilla Temple of Fiends at Temple of Fiends. You would sort of expect that, but this is a floor and entrance shuffle, so that is a bit of a gift. We can take down Garland and get some early items on here. If we have Corneria Castle, which we probably don't. So.
Yeah, that's always one of those, again, it's one of the interesting things about floor and entrance. There are certain things that you kind of rely on, those first two early key items. Even finding Provoca, I don't believe that towns are switched around for this run. But just even the idea of like, oh, I can go to Provoca and get level 2 magic. You know, I can go to Elfland, and then forgetting that Elfland Castle is actually an entrance that you can check out to try to get some of those extra late game levels. Floor and entrance really does change how you approach it.
Yeah, I just checked that. We do have vanilla towns, and 8th to 13th is at Provoca already. Getting a look at level 2 magic. Looks like that white magic has tough to see with good fast at level 2 black though. Maybe that's Ice 3 at the top there too, so that's some pretty good black magic.
Yeah, Ice 3, fast. Ice 3 is nice to see early. You know, fast is going to be one of those late game spells that you're really happy to see at level 2. It's like, I feel like they're pretty prepped for the early game. Having Zap, Ice 3, you have Heal 3. There's a lot of different tools at your disposal. Even having that Scimitar +5 is going to make the fighter, and I believe the red mage is that. It's going to make all of them and their melee being that much stronger, and it looks like we're getting a canoe from Vicky. This is turning into one of those floor and entrance shuffles where you're going to have a lot of different entrances to spec, and yeah, you really got to plan accordingly and decide whether or not you're going to dive super deep into a dungeon and like open every box possible, or if you're going to just try to figure out what's the first floor in every entrance and not worry about diving so deep.
Yeah, excellent point, Devious. And I have to say I'm not much of a floor and entrance shuffle runner. I don't have a lot of experience with that. What I think I can say from watching those that are good at it is, at least with Shard Hunt, which we're not doing, people have a tendency to just go straight down whatever they find, because you never know what floor's next. Even if you have a really tough dungeon, it could be something really easy, a real gift on the next floor down. So instead of running all over the overworld, you don't have the airship. You probably do, in most cases, I think, want to commit to wherever you're at. But we're going to see how that works out, because for sure not all 4 of these runners are going to do the same thing.
Ooh, I didn't see that we have Ruse, Cure 4, and was it? Okay, just Ruse and Cure 4 at level 2 white. I don't know if you brought that up earlier as I was working on my computer, but again, those are 2 spells that late game are going to be fantastic. Early game, they're really nice, but that's one of those things that you kind of expect to see at a higher level and just kind of breathes a sigh of relief on you. But as Burt Reynolds, giving a proper emote in chat, we have an early canoe, which is great for exploration, but it opens up that river system and it opens up a ton more entrances. It just makes this a lot more complicated, and you really have to, again, be very strategic what entrances you go into.
Yeah, now one thing I want to point out, we have seen both entrances to the Titan's Trove, and that's not incentivized. So if these runners are keeping track, they can just cross those entrances right off their list. So that's nice to see. You always want to cut your options down in a situation like this. But yeah, you've got the canoe, you don't know where that floater is. It could be absolutely anywhere. So it looks like Hate the 13th is sort of working his way down around the right-hand side. Nightmare Phoenix doing the same thing, and Jar Jar's back in Provoca, and Walls of Jericho following along. So right now we've pretty much got all the runners doing the same things, going in the same direction. Not much divergence yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the divergence will definitely come. It's a little it's a little bit of a bummer to not see the Titan's wormhole that we usually refer to it as, where you can end up having Titans go to something like Titans East, lets you get to the Sarda entrance, but not in this case. And it looks like we do have Nuke at level 6, Black Magic, and I think I saw Wall at level 6 as well. Also, coming from the Sages, which, if you're looking for an early game item that's not the floater, I really like the key.
Yeah, I love the key. The key is something that gets you access to an incentive location if the Coronaria Closet is incentivized, and it also gives you access to a lot of trap tiles in the Inner Sea, which can be good for those early levels. So we like to see the Mystic Key. It's even more fun when the item is shuffled, but we don't have that this time around. The items are going to be in the Villanella locations. So if you find a floor, let's say you find the marsh floor, the chest is still going to be where you expect it to be, behind the sorcerers. Bit of a gift for these runners. As we get a look at the Sarda item, it is the ship. So Nightmare Phoenix, wow, oh no, this is bad. We've got the ship and the canoe with floor and entrance shuffle. Somebody cue the music.
Don't we have Vanilla Canal too? Or do we have a free canal?
I don't think so. I'm going to double check that.
Locked. Okay. Because if we have that free canal,
we do.
We do. Okay.
Yes.
So that opens up everything except for Gaia and Lefane. So that's essentially every dungeon entrance now open to us except for the Cardia Isles. And I'm assuming that we don't have the dead ends in this floor and entrance, so that's only 4 additional entrances. But I do want to draw attention to where we're at right now, because I feel like our runners are at that point where they're like, oh, there's a lot of stuff we can do. So we see grinds beginning, early game grinds. We're seeing a pop grind from Jar Jar Thinks. We're seeing Crescent Lake grind from Hate the 13th, and we're seeing a little bit more traveling from our other runners, but they're definitely thinking.
Yeah, not a lot of love in the community for the pop grind. Jar Jar Thinks going for that, and it's something that a lot of people, when they start playing Randomizer, they might remember this from the vanilla game, and it can come in really handy. In this case, looks like those giants are stoning some of our fighter and white mage. Yeah, I don't know, with all the different places that we can go to, I don't know if I would stop here. Maybe Jar Jar wants to get some money together to buy something, though.
Yeah, I mean, I shout out to Jat, who is a big, he's like put his heart and soul into the Duckling program, and I know for a fact he's very anti-pop grind, but I think, again, early game, you have some spells that are okay, but it's gonna give you some quick levels, it's gonna give you some quick cash, and especially if you're a newer runner to floor and entrance shuffle, and like so far we've seen Mirage 1 our only available actual dungeon, which is a very high, it's an end game dungeon, you're gonna need those early levels. And if you end up getting, those giants which are susceptible to zap off the power cycle, you might end up having a decent pop grind at first.
Yeah, definitely. Walls of Jericho, moving on, giving us a look at Elfland magic. I saw Lit 2 at level 3 black. He's going to do this dive. Okay, I would have liked to see the white magic before doing this because we could have exit there. But Jericho's going for it. What's really good about being here is that they do have good spells, so you could end up getting through here with an important key item and a lot of levels. But Walls of Jericho doesn't have a lot of firepower and not a lot of defense. I'm scared about his chances of getting through here and getting back. It's going to be a real problem.
I'm instantly reminded of our reigning Duckling Supreme, Dead Pulse, who's commentating on the other restream at the moment. But he's opened my eyes to the Waterfall hard reset grind. Waterfall has some great enemies. You've got those rock galls, you've got the Gasties, you've got like packs of Paralisks. Those are all some pretty hefty experience counters that can easily be out by an Ice 3. So it's a pretty solid option to just hard reset, check to see what your first couple encounters are in this Waterfall, and if you get something that's grindable, that can easily get you up to that early team level that you kind of are looking for before you start a deep dungeon.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a solid strategy, especially in a situation like this where you've got an inn right next door you can just pop into. The Elfland Inn is right there next to the entrance to the town. But it looks like now we've got 3 runners all just going for it in the ice cave, and this is going to make a difference. Not all of them are going to make it through your other first try.
Yeah, and I feel like I would be the runner that didn't make it their first try, but there does have that RNG aspect to it. And, again, here's another risk-reward thing. The robot met us with the Ruby, which we've already determined is so yes, if you hear us talking a little bit later, than what you're seeing on stream, we're just having some restream issues. But I love that Hate the 13th pulled out some lasagna from the robot, because that's one of our newer flags. Just like we have the multi-instrumentalist Sarah, where you can get any sort of instrument instead of the loot, we also have a whole bunch of different options for what the Titan's favorite. So I love Hate the 13th having that lasagna.
Yeah, so it looks like we're back now, and Walls of Jericho making it out. So there's one runner back to safety.
Yeah, I'm not loving the walkout. I don't think we really gained a lot from that, except, I do like that Hate the 13th has taken a couple levels as he gets out of there, but in terms of items, it's not a strong item. You know that your key item is just a waste of time. I do see Fire 4 on Walls of Jericho's screen in level 4 magic, which is a much welcome pickup, as well as Life 2 Heal and Exit. So it looks like level 4 black magic is fantastic, and what I would be worrying about is, do I have money for the level 4 magic? Do I have some spell slots? And then I'm gonna leave Elfland as soon as possible. I'm going to pick up, we got Marsh Cave, we have Northwest Castle, 3 by Melmond, and you've got 2 by Waterfall, and you have Ordeals. You get a lot of different other options.
Yeah, and this is what I was talking about when I was saying, let's check that magic at Elfland first. Now, you might not have the money for it, but if you do, pulling out that exit really helps in a floor and entrance shuffle. Let's see what 8 the 13th does. He has found out that he's got the ruby. They might not know, because we know that they've found both sides of the wormhole, but they might not. So that's one thing that could be pushing them to keep that ruby. They don't know. It might be required to get through somewhere. Looks like Jar Jar is about to make it out.
Yeah. And it looks like Walls of Jericho actually being able to leave Elfland first. I like the idea of restocking. It looks like, no, he's thinking Mirage 1. He's thinking, now that I've got these levels, now that I got some of these early spells, I'm gonna pick some of these boxes, and we're gonna take this out. Not seeing anything good. It's not a shard hunt, right? It's just it's 4 orbs, I assume.
Yeah, that's right. No shard hunt here. So Walls of Jericho making the decision to go back to that tough early dungeon with some good spells now. I like to play.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about this play is the box opening. Like, if the play is to dive this dungeon because it's going to be higher level enemies that I'm going to be able to gain a lot of experience off of, I like the play. If the idea is I want to open all of these boxes, unless I'm sitting there with like a shop item at 30k that I need to grind some gold for, I don't like picking up those boxes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Walls of Jericho, though, getting a little bit lucky, finding dwarves. Always good to know where that is, because that's an important location. If you find the TNT or the adamant, you can get key items in there. They also have the mystic key, so Walls of Jericho, if he was really into boxes, could have checked them and then exited out. I would have been tempted to, but I think you're right. They've got a decent mid-game sword right from the get-go. They've got great spells. They've got exit. They don't need too much.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, this is one of the hard things about the Duckling Derby. It's one of the things I love about it, because it's exposing you to so many different game types, but it can absolutely be overwhelming because, we don't have a free now.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. I must have misread the flags, but yeah, there's a little land bridge there. They're going to have to dynamite that before they get anywhere. That's actually good for your sanity, because it cuts down how many places you have to check.
Yeah. So we do see from Jar Jar Thinks, the first one to find Canaria Castle actually finds the canal and the floater coming from the king, Princess Sarah. So Jar Jar thinks finding the money load in terms of key items, and they'll probably be lining it over to Desert. And then you hit the absolute worst part of Floor and Entrance Shuffle, which is, where do I go now?
Yeah, and it can be tough. They have found Kraken, and it looks like Hate the 13th is going for it. Walls of Jericho just taught me something I didn't know about that seafloor. Apparently you can go up and into a room, and then sort of west and then down out of that room, instead of what I always do, which is to go left first and then up. So you always learn something new when you watch a race.
Yeah, well, and so we have Walls of Jericho and Hate the 13th on Kraken floor. Jar Jar Thinks finding Tia, which I would assume that was at Marsh Cave, because
based on where he is, yeah.
Yeah, based on where he is. But that's already 2 of our Fiend dungeons. I mean, personally, if we do have Brack. I think that's why the Kraken play makes sense. Also, a Tia play would make sense with that Brack. But if it's me, I'm saving right outside of Tia, and I'm going to try to grind the Bridge of Destiny, or at least check a couple encounters, because if you end up getting fighters off of that hard reset on the Bridge of Destiny, those are some of the highest experience enemies in the game, more so than those eyes, and I'm gonna bask in the experience.
Yeah, and again, some really solid knowledge there in terms of using that hard reset and forward entrance shuffle is particularly useful. Two Brat casters, definitely good for fighting either Kraken or Tiamat. Unfortunately, we're not getting the Brak luck, and Kraken is leading off with two very high damaging AoE spells. Hate the 13th, not one to back down. It's going to go straight back in there. I like this. You're going to get lucky with those two Brat casters. You're going to have your Orblet. You're going to have that experience boost. It should work out.
Unless you're Greg Leapuff.
Unless you're Greg Leapuff and you drop something like 18 Braks in a race on stream.
Yeah. I mean, Walls of Jericho ended up lighting the first orb on stream, getting a Brak cast to hit very early on in the fight. But Hate the 13th getting that rough RNG. And I agree. I like the play to dive in. I don't like these unrunnable lobsters, but I do like the play to dive back in and down this fight.
Yeah, no, I'm not used to this new flag where they're seeing all of the information on the weapon when they open a box. It's making it difficult for me to see what they're seeing in there. But that's going to be another flag that's been added by our community devs. They've been really good at just putting things in this game to make it more accessible to people coming in who don't have everything memorized. So stuff like that can be really useful.
Yeah. Well, and to go back to Hate the 13th, getting the Brak cast to land on the first attempt this time, and Jar Jar thinks doing a very unpopular play, but it working out for him. He decided to go back to Titan and check to see the 4 boxes that Titan had, and one of them was a Sun +4 sword, where the Sun sword is one of the best pre-promotion swords in the game, if not the best, and at +4, that is a devastating endgame weapon for that fighter. So if I'm Jar Jar Thinks, I'm thinking less about opening boxes and more about finding keys.
Yeah, Sun +4 definitely going to get the job done, especially when you've got low-level Fast and Temper, which we do. We've got multiple casters of those spells, and we can always dump the Sun Sword on the Red Mage for Hate the 13th if we want a backup. So real nice find, but even better, we see that Princess Sarah's been holding on to the floater. So we've got some Light Warriors in the air here.
Yeah, it looks like Hate the 13th is the only one that didn't find that, and unfortunately for him, that Canaria Castle with the floater is sitting at Northwest Castle, and if he doesn't decide to go right, oh no, he's heading off. Oh no, he does have the floater. I'm sorry. Yes, he did just pick it up. He's just heading over to turn that floater in. So Hate the 13th will be in the air in a minute or so. I like the choice by Nightmare Phoenix. Head immediately to the Cardia Isles, being rewarded with Onrak, or the Castle of Ordeals, which is randomized completely, unlike the original game, and this is also a big aspect of quick play. How do you manage Ordeals effectively without warp and remembering the patterns and remembering how all of this is supposed to.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of an art to that. You got to keep track. In my case, it's, I basically think in terms of left and right, up and down, and 1, 2, 3, 4 for the different teleporters, and it's just something you try to keep in your head. And one thing that I do, I rely a lot on written notes, and so after I solve the maze, I'm always going to write it down because it's something you want to come back to. But is that a ribbon we just found in Sky?
That's a ribbon sitting in the right Sky room. Which, if there's a room to check on Sky 1, I think the right room has more chests than the other room. It's kind of a bummer that there's a Cardia room, treasure room, at the end of this floor. It's nice that you have exit, I should say that. But again, it's hard to get into this mindset, especially early on as a duckling. Don't open boxes. Don't open boxes. You know, it's probably the hardest thing to get to, but if you're starting to get that higher level armor, don't go out of your way for boxes. Try to see what you can get minimized. It's definitely safer. It's just going to take more time.
Yeah, the thing is, I actually kind of do like going back in this guy if you're going to take the fights. There's Green Medusa after Green Medusa. I think 3 encounters in a row here with Green Medusas, but Jar Jar's not taking them, which is really too bad because that would have been a pile of experience just waiting to be picked up right there.
Yeah. Yeah, again, and that's... It is one of those floor and entrance shuffle things. And, you know, I'm super excited about the co-op tournament that's going to be starting on August 2nd, because that's going to have a floor and entrance shuffle as well, and just seeing all of the different actually take advantage of some of these encounters, like this R-Hydra fight that Hate has. R-Hydras are weak to ice, so casting out Ice 3 early is a very strong play. R-Hydras are going to have a nice chunk of experience, and so it's a nice, quick way to get to that, like, mid-teen levels very, very quickly. And then, if you're lucky, you can... but, you know, just like we found kind of a new thing in the community as of late, is grinding off of the desert, the 4 desert tiles on the overworld, grinding off of the Bridge of Destiny, grinding off of... I'm not going to do Kraken Floor. It's just... but grinding off of some of these late-game dungeons is another option that they have available.
Yeah, Kraken Floor, affectionately known as the death grind when you find a good trap tile there. Too many lobsters, too many sea snakes with too much HP, it's usually not going to be a good time. So Jar Jar thinks is into Melmond. I think this is the first we've seen somebody be here, and there's a Lit 3. That'll come in handy. Bane we don't need because we've already got Brack. But what are we going to see at this white magic? Well, Jar Jar's not even going to take a look. He's back in the airboat. Moving on, and everybody else seems to be retracing steps for the most part, but Hate the 13th is trying to brack down Tiamat. Will be the first to 2 orbs if this goes down.
Yeah, and we actually did see Hate the 13th run into a Warmech encounter and just quickly run away from that, which I do not... like, I am 100% behind that move. You're not at the levels and equipment where you can make that, and hopefully this fight goes better than the Kraken 1 fight that he had earlier.
Yeah, too many safe ways to get experience with floor and entrance shuffle in an airship. No sense in being a hero and taking down Warmech. I do like the attempt at Tiamat. Unfortunately, we're getting that Bracklog again. It's just not dropping for 8th to 13th. I think we're up to 8 or 9 casts here. And still no dice. Tiamat's hitting pretty hard too. As Walls of Jericho is about to head straight to the Marsh item. We're going to get a look at that.
Yeah, this is not looking good for Hate the 13th. He's at the point where he needs to pivot, you know, casting fast, trying to get the melee items. Staff, I mean, that's kind of like a shot in the dark. Better to use that, like, the Cure 4 and the Tempers on your melee caster. I think, you know, there's the opportunity to get through this. He's doing about 150 on that last strike. Tia having 1,000... I don't know what our boss scaling is, but there's that was like 380. Yeah, definitely going to be an opportunity to take down Tia.
Yeah, the boss scaling is not too high, so Hate can get it done. Want to point out, though, we do have a T-Rex grind here at the Marsh trap tile. That could be something. It's not too hard to get to. We do have exit. But it's only returning about 1,600 with all 4 Light Warriors up. So I don't know if Walls of Jericho is sticking around. We do have the Adamant. We know where Dwarves is. Probably he's just going to go turn that in.
Yeah, I mean, we're at the point, and yet again, another thing to think about with floor and entrance shuffle. The goal is to find the 4 feet. That's what the goal is. The goal is not to get every key item. The goal is, you know, not to find the best grind tile. The goal is to defeat 4 Titans. And the more time that you spend chasing down fetch quests, the less time you're tracking down those last 2 fiends. So what I'd like to see our runners doing is, checking the beginning entrances of a lot of these Cardia Isles. I'd like to see someone head over to Onrak and check, the waterfall. I'd like to see someone check Redeals. I don't even know if we've seen. Oh no, Jar Jar Thinks did check. The Starda Titans area, but I want to see some of these fiends before I start diving for the Rod, the Oxyale, some of these other key items.
Yeah, that's a good point. Walls of Jericho doing exactly that, continuing with the cardia checks because he's there. So that just goes into some of those floor and entrance shuffle skills that you were talking about. So if anyone's keeping track at home, we've got 2 so far. One of them is check the first floor off the power cycle. When you find a deep dungeon, you may find an eye right off the bat, and there you go, you've got your levels. The second thing that Devious mentioned was don't get too caught up in chasing items down. What you're really doing is you're looking for information about where everything is. You want to find your 4 fiends, and that might make a lot of the items unnecessary.
Yeah, it's a tough balance. Again, with the co-op tournament coming up in the near future, a lot of this additional strategy just starts coming into play. Because especially with all of our runners running fighter parties, a fighter needs equipment. So you need to open boxes to find the best equipment. It's a matter of which ones do you open. So, for example, with that Sky 1, I love the play of checking the right room. It's a fantastic play. Maybe even the left room. Don't go south. The solo check down at the bottom. Yes, I have lost the game because there was a massa there and I didn't find it, but it's such a rare occurrence that, again, we're talking about 10 seconds, but 10 seconds over, 10 or 15 decisions ends up turning into minutes. And again, I'm commenting from a perspective of trying to find optimal routing with optimal, nitpicky things. But overall, again, the reason that we get to pick out this optimal nitty-gritty type of detail is because of the strong foundation that
Yeah, so Hate the 13th, I didn't pick this up earlier. Had picked up the bottle at, I think it was Titans East. So we haven't seen Gaia yet, but it's just a matter of time before we find it. It is at its vanilla location, so it's just a matter of flying there. But to your point from earlier, we don't necessarily just chase items. It's about which entrances you're closest to, and I feel like all 4 runners are doing a pretty good job at that. Jar Jar Thinks also picking up the bottle. It's in Ordeal's floor, but I think that's going to be at the Titans East entrance. We'll find out when he gets out. So Walls of Jericho, though, does dig out Lich, and this is another easy orb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a first floor orb. We had a first floor Kraken, a second floor Tia, a first floor Lich, and now we're down to Carry. There's a very limited number of places that Carry can be. Go find Carry. don't find key items. Go find Carry, because that's all you need to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, we've got good weapons, we've got fast, we've got temper, we've got life 2. I don't know what sort of defense we have. I did see a ribbon at one point. Here's the bottle item. It is the crown. We do know where to go to turn that in. I think we've seen the Northwest Castle just recently in the Cardia Isles here somewhere.
Yeah, I think Hate the 13th was just at Northwest Castle. I don't think he had the crown at the time, but he was definitely there. In Walls of Jericho, finding our Brassy Cardia, which normally I would say is a bad thing, but a first floor C split with only 1 fiend less to go, I'm excited about this. that means that this isn't gated behind a rod or something like that. The more splits I have, the more likelihood I don't need something like the Oxyale, which we learned from Nightmare Phoenix. Adamant turn-in item. My sole focus right now is carry. Where's carry? Where's carry? Where's carry? Where's carry?
Yeah, so Walls of Jericho now 3 floors down on the right-hand side, checking the trap tiles at Titans. I don't know if he really needs to do this, but it could be something good. It's hard to pass it up. Sentry and a guard's not going to cut it. Let's see what's behind door number 2. Walls of Jericho taking a second, realizing he's going to need to fight again. 4 Sphinxes, that is no good. We're going to have to check the third one and move on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm like gonna start contradicting myself. You know, we do need to have levels eventually. So I like the idea of checking the Hall of Giants. I don't know how deep this was in the dungeon.
3 floors down.
It's 3 floors down.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little deep, but if you found something that was a pretty easy tile to take care of, then yeah, I would want to see that. Like, as you said, sentries and guards are not great. Unless the sentry has, like, 0 health, which is super uncommon. But I think, so yeah, Walls of Jericho's at that C, so it's going to be a big question of what's going to be here at the end.
Yeah, and picking up Bane +2, that's going to be an upgrade over the Scimitar +5, and I would say the Sun +4 as well. Don't have the exact stats on that, but I think the Bane's higher damage is going to put it above the Sun, even with the extra 2 points in Blursing.
Well, that Vorpal +5 is going to take care of both of them, so it looks like, yes, Walls of Jericho is already promoted, so that Vorpal +5 is going right on that fighter, and that's going to be your endgame weapon. No need to look for a Massa. Who cares? I got my Vorpal 5. I'm gonna crit them to smithereens.
Yeah, definitely for the end game. I think I might keep the Bane +2 on for now, though. It might perform better in these regular enemies.
Don't discount the base damage of the Vorpal. It's the worst of the best, but it's still part of the best.
Oh, I discounted. But, you know, jokes aside, anything better than Vorpal +3 is going to be useful. Vorpal +5, you're happy to see that.
Yeah, I like that Walls of Jericho decided to exit out of finding Matoya on the right side of the C-split, now jumping out, trying to see what's down the left side. Kind of getting trolled a little bit by some of these encounters. But again, at the end of the day, where's Carrie? Where's Carrie? Where's Carrie?
Yeah, Carrie playing a little bit of hide and seek on us. Something tells me might be behind this left split. We're going to see if Walls of Jericho turns it up. Gonna probably bypass this floor. This is a good floor for fights. The hard reset can have the eye, but Walls of Jericho's having none of it. We do have a volcano floor here, so maybe we're getting warm, so to speak.
Hey, we'll see. We'll see if they're connected.
Or maybe we'll get Marsh split after this. What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I've had the deep split to a deep marsh split to having your late game location. You know, we're at the maze now, so it's not good to see some of these very difficult floors deep down. I love these fighters, so I love the fighter tile. You know what? I'm feeling ordeals. I'm feeling the ordeals entrance is going to be where Carrie is. Just because.
Yeah, shout out to Fighter Pod from Spring Tournament. That was my pod. So, you know, gotta get the shout outs in. Hate the 13th is checking the Dwarf Armory, just looking for some gear. Let's see. Oh, we've got a Dragon Sword and a couple of gold pieces.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a disappointment. I remember early on when I was playing and trying to get into this idea of being purposeful. Why am I doing what I'm doing? If I'm opening boxes, what am I looking for? If I'm going into a magic shop, what am I trying to find? If I'm going to an armor shop, what piece of armor am I trying to get out of this? And so I'd like to know in this especially from 13th's perspective, what is the thing that he's looking for in a box that is motivating all of the box checks?
Yeah, well, in his case, it's probably a weapon, because I saw him pop that Dragon +3 on. It was the best thing he had, other than the Scimitar +5 from the beginning of the game. So, yeah, looking for a weapon is something I understand. That is a situation in which you will check the Dwarf Armory. I just want to mention, I saw an eye on Nightmare Phoenix's screen, but I think it was just a random encounter.
Yeah, I think I tried to check. It looked like he was on a sky floor, so I think it was just a random encounter. Walls of Jericho in Gaia, finding those Pro Ring +2, which is a great pickup. That's one of those things you're looking at armor for. Where's the Pro Rings? Because not only are they a good defense, it's also going to protect you from the death element, which is definitely a wanted protection for some of those things.
Yeah, well, look, I'll give you my list when it comes to regular armor shops. The list is gold bracelets, pro rings, silver bracelets, and that's the list. There's not really anything else. Some people like the steel armor. I don't. I find it costs too much, and usually a gold bracelet, if that's the best you have, is going to be just as good. But it can come in handy. An iron armor, surprisingly, is very good, but you often stumble across that one way or another.
Yeah. Well, there's also the silver sword's nice, but if you were to ask some people, they'd prefer the rapier or the scimitar, because those have a better crit rate. I think it's the scimitar. It's either the scimitar or the other one that begins with F.
Yeah, Scimitar, Saber, and Falchion. Falchion is the best of that group. Yeah, we don't check weapon shops after Corneria. I think for most part, of course, it depends on what flags you're running. It depends on a lot of different things. There are some situations in which a Cat Claw +5 is your best weapon. I have seen that happen. So Walls of Jericho picking up TNT, that's going to be useless. I think we've already seen this check of Astos's Closet, but maybe not. So there could be some monsters to fight here.
Yeah, I think we've already seen that and found nothing of it. I don't know if we've seen the TNT turn in, but I did notice the, Hate the 13th finding a white shirt, which I didn't realize that we had picked up. According to our tracker, the white shirt is at the Ordeals. So it's a nice defensive item that's making me feel a little bit safer and more confident in that end game fighter. And I didn't realize we picked up a gold +5 Cheerio. So that's a very nice armor for this movie especially.
Yeah, gold +5 is great. I'll take that any day of the week, especially with this scaling.
Mm-hmm.
The white shirt, also nice to have. We do have level 2 Ruse, which will be night castable. But the good thing about that white shirt is that anybody can use it, and it affects the whole party. So it is helpful, especially if you're going in with the levels a little bit lower than you might be comfortable with, taking on some of those hard-hitting fiends towards the back end. So Nightmare Phoenix is going to take on Tiamat right now. Jar Jar is about to take on Astos. That's not much of a fight. And Hate the 13th is opening boxes. Still looking for that weapon, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know we found that Sunsword +4 in Titan. We found the Vorpal +5, I think was in Matoya, which was at the end of that C split. So the late game items we have seen are not where Hate happens to
be. Yeah, so interesting positioning here with Hate the 18th and Walls of Jericho both having 2 orbs, but not the same 2. So, we're not watching the same race here in terms of decision making. And the thing that's really interesting is that we still haven't seen Carrie anywhere. And we haven't seen the Marsh split. I feel like we've checked most of the overworld entrances. Maybe haven't seen Waterfall yet.
Yeah, I haven't we haven't seen Waterfall. We haven't seen On Rack Dungeon. I don't think we've seen the Ordeals entrance. I don't believe I've seen it, but we've seen pretty much everything else.
Yeah, the
And
Ordeals. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and I do want to point out, Hate the 13th, deciding to prove me wrong, finding an Opal +4 bonk and a Dragon +3 armor on that Sky 3 floor. So, Hate the 13th not finding an endgame weapon, but finding all of the armor he could ever want.
Yeah, that's a big dragon armor. I mean, the Opal Gauntlet's nice, but I think I'd still take the Pro Ring, given that it rolled up and it has protection from death. But yeah, the dragon armor is so huge. It's almost a ribbon, especially when combined with the Pro Ring. So that's going to be good. Breathing a little bit easier in terms of defense, but really wants that weapon and hasn't found it. Now, one thing that's interesting about these flags is that the Mazmune is actually incentivized. So you start to do this sort of mental calculus where you're like, do I prefer to just open random boxes, or do I start to chase incentives looking for the Mazmune? And that's going to be a hard decision to make. I don't envy Hate's position right now.
Yeah, I find it interesting, like asking what seems to be on the front of each runner's mind as they're making the decisions that they're making. What are they looking for? I think something that's kind of come into the jargon of Final Fantasy Randomizer is, what's your win condition? And I'm wondering how many of our runners are focusing on, like, what sort of item, equipment, spell, whatever is my win condition versus the win condition of kill carry. Which, it doesn't seem like any of our runners are very concerned about killing carry. And that's the thing that concerns me.
Yeah, with this scaling, you don't need a weapon any better than Dragon +3, but Hate the 13th has got horse blinders on at this point. He is checking everything. We just saw Marsh bottom check. That is not something you see very often with those boxes that are behind the key-locked spots. I'm not going to come out and say it's a bad play. It's not something you see very often because it is a lot of walking. Walls of Jericho, on the other hand, is about to give us a look at whatever's behind the waterfall, and potentially the on-rack dungeon as well, if he's got his Oxyale, which I think he does. So this looks to be the progression that we need.
Yeah, I mean, if we haven't seen the vanilla Ordeals entrance, which I think you were about to tell me that we have seen, but it's really this like Oxyale and Waterfall that we haven't quite seen yet. Oh, and the Chime to get us into Mirage.
Yes, and no, I'm sorry, DVS. I don't think we have. I was going to agree with you there. I was going to say that it's one that you don't see checked early because you either need to sail with it with the ship or do a fair bit of walking with the airship. So that could be why they haven't checked it yet, if in fact they haven't, which I think I agree with you. I don't remember seeing that done.
Yeah, it's funny because like I had a hate relationship with Ordeals because no, not Ordeals, Lefane. I had a very bad relationship with Lefane when I was first running because Lefane was like, it was always a place that I could get to early, but I would choose not to go to because it took so many steps to get there. But I would end up waiting so long to try to get to I would wait so long before trying to get to Lefane that I've wasted a ton of time without just doing the quick check turn in. So that's the same thing with Ordeal. If you're flying by Ordeals, bite your lip, take the tent and see what's there, as opposed to trying to put it off and put it off and put it off.
Yeah, so our tracker, just shout out to our tracker, Dark Moon, and dual classing tonight on the tracker and the restream. So big time props to Dark Moon for that. Also, gotta say, the author of the artwork that you're seeing in the background there with the Duckling Derby whipping along. So definitely community member, an admin, really somebody who pulls a lot of weight in this game. And yeah, he's ripping us and telling us to check the notes. And I have to confess, I'm looking at them. I'm like, I know that we have found Ordeals itself at Cardia Forest, but I don't know that we've seen the Ordeals entrance checked. So anyways, they're still humming around. Now, I didn't see, because we got talking there, what was behind that waterfall check? Anything good?
It's a good question. I'm seeing Earth 4, and oh, we have seen this waterfall check, because we're seeing Earth 1, and we already saw Earth 1 from Walls of Jericho. And this is where you got that Bane +2. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't remember this leading to anything of note. Yeah, this is Matoya. He's gonna find his Warple 5. No! 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 Ugh.
You can't win them all, there. You can't win them all, DBS.
Hey, why? Why? That was the place you opened the boxes!
Now, Hate the 18th finding the loot at the spider floor. Now, I think we saw another runner just blast past that earlier. The loot is going to be required, because even once you've got all the fiends down, you've still got to take out that plate. So that's a big find.
Yeah, I think that was Walls of Jericho. And I was wondering, because he just burned through Sky 2 without checking the incentive box. So I was assuming that Sky 2 wasn't incentivized. That's really bad news for Walls of Jericho. I mean, I don't think he got it either, Dark Moon.
No, I'm sure I remember that. He just headed straight down. And I did the same thing. I just kind of mentally checked it off and said there must be nothing there. But I'm so used to item being shuffled around in the dungeons from Spring Tournament, so.
Yeah, yeah, that's like, this is like almost equivalent to forgetting to talk to Becky. It's like, they're gonna hit that point where they say, I've checked everything. I've gone everywhere. What am I missing? And it's really hard to remember missing something that you didn't know was incentivized. But I do want to point out, Jar Jar thinks actually having the crystal when they went to go talk to Toya and getting the rod. And I'm not sure if we've seen
The rod plate. No, we haven't.
Yeah, that's potentially a good pickup. And you know, I'm seeing Jar Jar thinks is now diving into that. It looks like it's the Oxyel turn-in that the Sky Floor was at, or this ice cave dive. Don't want Carrie. Got it? Show me Carrie.
Yeah, so Jar Jar does pick up his loot, and Devious, I think this is worse than Bicky, because at least with Bicky, like, at least if you've ever made that mistake before, that's one of the first places you go back and check. Whereas with this one, you're doing floor and entrance shuffle, it would be really hard to pick that one up and just somehow, remember, oh, I didn't check that. But stranger things have happened. So I hate the 13th giving me a better look. I know we've already seen this waterfall entrance, but 8th, 13th following it down, we've got about 4 floors deep and we're at the volcano. It could be that the earth floor is down here and neither one of us was looking at the time, but it's just a cardia.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see.
No.
No, I think Hate's gonna keep trying to look for that sword, unfortunately. Ooh, finding an opal +5, but I mean, still wanting that sword. So yeah, it's the ordeals and Mirage. Those are the 2 places you gotta look, and like they're the last locations on pretty much all of our runners' minds.
Yeah, so I'm just going to check our tracker here, and it doesn't look, this is what I thought, it doesn't look like anybody's found the chime yet. We have 2 runners with the cube, but you need the chime to get into Mirage. So if Carrie is in Mirage, then, oh, 8th to 13th chime just got lit up. So
yeah,
I'm not sure.
it was
Go
the
ahead.
shop item. It was the shop item in on.
Ah, okay, great. Yeah, thanks for that. So, okay, so that's good. It means that we're not going to be looking all over the place to get access to Sky. Hate, though, is the only one, or one of the ones without the cube. So maybe delaying that, but it doesn't, with floor and entrance shuffle, it's sort of counterintuitive, but you don't necessarily need the cube uh, to benefit from whatever's at the Mirage entrance.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why, you know, again, Ordeals and Mirage are 2 of those locations that you're not going to see a lot of people check on a floor entrance shuffle. And if you check the places people typically don't check, that often gives you an advantage. You know, I'm thinking of Caleb's love for Earth Floor and Marsh Cave, because so many runners hate them so much that when there is something there, it's definitely a huge advantage if you don't have this idea of trying to delay it for as long as possible.
Yeah, people talk about that Asher chest over on the right-hand side of the vampire floor. I wasn't around for that, so I'm not sure what the special halo around that one is. But yeah, it's one that you can check. It's not that far away, but people don't usually.
And Dark Moon putting hashtag Never Marsh in chat, which again, I hate Marsh Cave too. It's part of that mental game. It's part of that mental chess that you have to do with yourself of trying to recognize, what do I want? Like, it's tough. I'm excited. Where's Hate going? Okay, Hate's going to Mirage. So, we still haven't seen Marsh Split. We still haven't seen Carrie. Is there anything else of note that we haven't seen? Gotta be 3. We haven't seen Vampire Floor. We haven't seen the Q Block. Trying to think of what other things we haven't seen, because there should be 3 more end caps. Carrie's one of them. I don't think we've seen Elflin Castle. That's one of them. And I don't know what the last one is. I'll have to think about it.
Yeah, we do find the vampire floor. Hate the 13th, though, doesn't have the rod, and that's going to slow him down. That's too bad, because we're starting to run out of possibilities. That could be something that we really need.
Yeah, and I know. There it is. All right, I'm checking our tracker notes. The crystal was at Mermaid, and crystal turned into the rod. So if Carrie happens to be behind that rod, we're looking at a decent fetch quest that you need to follow.
Yeah, now has anyone turned in that TNT that Hate the 13th? Oh, there we go, tracker notes again. So, let's see here. All right, rock solid. What have we got? TNT does not seem to show up here. At least the TNT.
Yeah, crown to TNT to slab, which turns into an incentive ribbon. Which is a serious womp womp. That's not what you want to see here.
Yeah,
it's ordeals. It's ordeals. I haven't seen ordeals. Everyone's avoiding ordeals. I want to see someone go to ordeals.
Yeah, I wonder who the first is going to be. I mean, everybody is going ahead and checking the Sky Mirage, which makes sense. I mean, you've got your Giant Vendor item. It's less walking to check here. So that's what they're going for. Now, Jar Jar does have the rod. So we're going to get to see what's behind that door number 2.
Yeah, and that again, this is one of those make or break things. I think we have, Jar Jar has the rod. He's our only runner so far that has it. So if Carrie happens to be beyond this particular floor, then that puts a ton in Jar Jar's favor. If this is Marsh Split, which leads to Alpine Castle and whatever other dead end I can't remember, then that's very, very bad news for Jar Jar. And I'm wondering if our runners haven't seen a particular entrance. Yeah, because I see Hate starting to spin his wheels a little bit, and I'm wondering if he's forgotten about Ordeals. But it does look like Walls of Jericho is our first runner to make the decision to head over to Ordeals.
Yeah, Hate's still checking items, and I mean, he doesn't have the rod, so that's probably why. Unfortunately, the slab is going to get it translated, and then it is going to turn into... Do we know? What's the ribbon? Yeah. Okay, so the herb or the... what's the other one? We were just talking about it. We still haven't seen the Masmune, so the Masmune is behind something. And the herb leads to something, as well as... Oh, I'm drawing a blank here. But Walls of Jericho finding the crystal, that's good. That's going to lead to the rod if he continues to go in a straight line following items, which he may not. That was at Ordeals, it looks like.
So, I need to give credence. I see on our tracker notes, crystal at Mermaid leads to rod. I didn't know it was Ordeals. But we do know that it's got to be beyond this rod. It's got to be beyond this rod.
So rod to herb to what? To Masmune?
So it's going to be rod. It's going to be rod to something to do with Marsh Split. That's going to have to do with getting an herb to Massa and Carrie. Oh, you know what? Is Volcano incentivized?
I'm just checking.
If Volcano's incentivized, then the Volcano, the item is the herb.
Yeah.
Which it looks like Jar Jar just found Elfland Castle. So yeah, so Carrie's floor is the other end of this, and it looks like that's words.
It's gonna be down from Marsh Split.
I know. So it's gonna be Marsh Bottom is gonna be Carrie, gonna have the herb, but you need Cube to get through Cube Locked to get to Elfland Castle to get to your Massa. So then it's the decision of, do you big brain this? Do you pick up your herb, kill Carrie, light the orb, and then warp backwards to get your Massa out of Elfland Castle?
Yeah, I guess if Jar Jar might have all the information to do that, looking at the things that he has. I'm just checking what is not lit up. The slab, so maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, well, because he has the slabs. Yeah, because slab was in that big crown to TNT to slab to ribbon. He got the herb. He's about to be our first runner to finally find Carrie. And find out, well, first of all, how bad Carrie is, but I'm really curious what he does with this herb, knowing that it's 100% his Massa or a ribbon. I mean, even if he doesn't know that the slab leads to the ribbon, there's a strong possibility that, either this herb leads to a ribbon or it leads to Massa, both of which are things that you want in your
Yeah, and I think making that decision, you take a lot of things into consideration. One of them is levels. Jar Jar just hit level 24, 25 on most of his Light Warriors. So that means if you're looking for casts of level 8 magic, that's where you get your first one. Of course, level 8 magic doesn't have too much that we really need. So the question is hit breakpoints on your fighter. That's something that varies from sword to sword. It's something that varies according to Blursing, so it gets a bit complicated. I think if you've got the Vorpal, yeah, I'm not going to talk out of my lane here, but anyway, level 4 24 fighter is pretty good if you've got swords that have rolled up, which they all have to do with this flag set.
Yeah, we do have a question in chat from Red Mage 475. Are there any seeds that have a key item that requires lab translation? Yeah. We actually it's very often that the slab leads to a key item for any. It just so happens in this flag set, the ribbon was the incentive item there, and Jar Jar. It looked like he did do a warp out to then go get his massive from the Elf Prince, and Jar Jar is eyeing Topher. He knows where it is. Gotta pick up some heal pots, maybe pick up some magic, but Jar Jar is going to be our first runner into Topher.
Yeah, stopping for Lefane, gonna get rewarded with that ribbon, so I'd say that's worth the time in most situations, especially if you don't have one already. And I can't recall if there was one. There was one hanging around in Sky, but I don't know if Jar Jar picked that up. Didn't see it in the inventory. So that's pretty big. Great armor, great weapon. Well, go ahead.
I do think it's something to keep in mind that we also have the problem, not a problem, but we have Wall. Wall is level 6 white, I believe. Yeah. So seeing Wall, I mean, that, yes, absolutely, a ribbon is better. However, you still got Wall. So if you have one ribbon and you can Wall, you can win. Don't discount Wall. Keep that in the back of your head.
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan. I like taking the White Mage. Not everybody does, but for my money, the flag sets that I've run, I'll take a White Mage over a Red Mage most of the time if I've got a Black Mage. But that's, a lot of people say that this Red Mage is better. It's basically a Black Mage with white magic. So, fight me if you want later. But Jar Jar's going to stop and go back, buy Ruse for his fighter. That's a solid play. Can't buy it looks like, but does get Cure 4. Okay, no, he's got Cure 4, but...
He picked it up.
Did he get Ruse?
I don't know. It's a little glitchy. I didn't get to see that. But Shanigan, I'm going to straight up disagree with you. I'm sorry. I have a microphone. Red Mage is not better. Period.
All right, we got majority rules on the microphone anyways. So Jar Jar Thinks enters Topher at about the 1 hour and 10 minute mark. Rolling right along, has all the tools that he needs to get this done. So let's see if this Topher's got any surprises in store for us.
I mean, I feel like it's more of a what surprises, because there's always something. And, I like the fact that Jar Jar has things. I'm a little nervous about casting them on the first floor, but you know what? Resource management, I'm going to hope he has enough spell cast to get through the rest of this.
Yeah, so Jar Jar Thinks moving along. This Topher is where we separate the adults from the children, and Jar Jar Thinks is going to show us what he's made of. Seeing a lot of metal slimes, but of course we're probably not going to take too many fights here. The community wisdom seems to be that you want to enter Topher with your levels, because if you try to take levels on your way, you'll lose them if you wipe. So usually it's pretty much just a straight run through. Now, I don't know, are we dealing with unrunnable encounters with this flag set? It seems to me that they haven't had problems with that.
Yeah, there's been a couple unrunnable encounters. I've seen lobsters that were unrunnable, so that sea floor is not making me feel a little bit nervous. But I do want to bring up, there's a great conversation of, I'm a little bit surprised that there are fewer black belts. And I do think that the blursing has a strong impact on that for two reasons. Number one, the fighter has plus 20 strength and plus 20 vit. So that's going to give you a stronger than normal with higher HP fighter. The black belt has extra luck, extra black spells, and minus 10 to strength. Now, when you see minus 10 to strength on a black belt, you might, as a newer runner, get nervous and not want to take the black belt. Problem is, strength has nothing to do with a black belt's damage. So I'm wondering if that minus 10 nerf to black belt actually worked into some people's mind to try to not take the black belt, thinking that it had something to do with the black belt's damage.
Yeah, potentially it did. I was just thinking, oh, Carrie comes out with nuclear and takes out both black mages, but we've got life 2, so that's not going to be too big of a deal. Jar Jar thinks makes it through the second Fiendry fight. Watch out for that exit boss, Jar Jar. So yeah, something with the minus 10 strength. I've definitely made that mistake before, thinking that that's a bad thing for the black belt when it really doesn't matter. But the other thing was, a lot of people do like the comfort of opening boxes, and so it could just be a personal preference thing where you just want to open boxes, you want to find weapons. There is no possibility that the weapons roll down in this flag set, so I can definitely see that, and they have found lots of great weapons.
Yeah, I kind of like Jar Jar's decision to throw out a new tier on this Medusa water fight simply because waters are a fantastic source of experience if you've got the extra spell casts. But I remember hearing discussions when I was first playing the game in terms of Topher, where if you're going to enter Topher, you should enter Topher knowing you can beat Topher now. And so trying to grind Topher on the way, unless you are thinking about, you've been mentioning hit break points, like if you're thinking about, I need to get to 24 for my fighter to get an extra hit on Massa, or 32 black belt, a little iffy. But we do have Kraken 2 coming out. We do have Fast going on to that fighter. I think there is a white shirt coming out from the white mage, about 500 damage coming out from that fighter. Kraken giving a nice little smack, but the fighter taking it pretty easily, even though on the back row. Tempers, very strong. A Cure 4 just for safety. Much lower damage output from that fighter on that last cast. Tempers, again, is just going to increase the amount of strength. There's that nuke coming out from Kraken, which is nerve-wracking, but it rolled low. Fighter swinging again, 850 damage. There goes Kraken 2. Jar Jar thinks is looking in very strong position, deciding to go for some heal 3s instead of using those heal pots. I think that's a good decision to go through quickly, as long as you know that you have your spell slots available to make it through the end game. Otherwise, you kind of do a couple heal 3s and then burn some heal pots for a little bit.
Yeah, the heal pot management is a big thing, and that might play a little bit to what you were saying before about throwing out the nuke against the waters. Sometimes your best defense is a good offense, although I don't know why you wouldn't use Ice 3 in that situation. Got more casts of that. Maybe it's to conserve fast casts. I just noticed that Ice 3 and Fast were at the same level. So here we are on Tiamat, and the Fast is off. We're doing big damage already. Tiamat dropped the stop and actually does slow down the 2 black mages, but I don't think it matters. We're already doing damage, and we've got the 2 people that we need up to continue and put up that defense. So Tiamat not hitting very hard. This fight doesn't look like it's gonna be much longer. one of the black mages back up, we're going to throw some more tempers out and basically just buff up. Swing that sword again, that'll be enough, and yes it is. Jar Jar is on. All we have to do is clear this floor and we're on to Chaos.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
Most of our other runners have finally lit their fourth orb. Dark Moon pointing out that Hate skipped Massa, and I don't know how many of our other runners have skipped Massa. I think most of them are going for it. But yeah, we're going into a Chaos fight here. First one on stream from Jar Jar Things. With 2,000 vanilla HP, we're going to be looking for quite a bit of health here from that Chaos. Chaos already giving out tier 4, so that's actually kind of nice. Being able to get out your white shirts, being able to get your evade up. I like the temper casts, and kind of doing a little bit of the extra protection. But now the deal is, can you deal enough damage to this Chaos before he can get to that cure again? And I think there's not going to be that much of a problem. You're seeing a lot of those tempers. Yeah, all of those tempers plus your Vorpal 5. This is not going to be a super long fight. Already doing 1,100 damage. This is almost the point where you do wait, swing, and we'll be seeing a terminating on Chaos relatively soon. And there it is, our first runner on stream to finish. Let's get some GG chat for Jar Jar Thinks. We're going to try to work on getting Jar Jar in here for an interview. But I do want to go through and give some congratulations to some of our other runners here tonight. Jar Jar finished in 6th place with his finish of 1 hour 17 minutes. To go through the other runners who already competed, Puppet Ducks taking 1st place in today's Duckling Derby with a time of 1 hour 6 minutes and seconds. Bellic coming in 2nd, 1 hour 8 minutes and 16 seconds. Adam Rupee, 1 hour 9 minutes 48. Krellin coming in 4th, 1 hour 10 minutes. Iker coming in 5th, 1 hour 14 minutes. And then, as I said, we have Jar Jar Things at 1 hour 17 minutes and 30 seconds. And it looks like we have one more runner that just finished, Rich Bork, at 1 hour 18 minutes and 20.
Yeah, shoutouts to Papa Ducks and Krellin, spring tournament participants, and another strong showing from both of them. I think they've been doing fairly well in this Duckling Derby. With, if I'm not mistaken, Papa Ducks' last position was number 2. So a really strong showing. Good to see these runners improving. And we've got 8th to 13th about to take on Kraken here. So leading off with some buffs, pretty much just the same strategies we've seen all this time. One thing that's interesting is we do still have that Thief in slot number 1, basically just acting as a meat shield, and can help with some of the ambushes. Nuclear comes out and the Thief is down, but everyone else is still up. That's going to work out well. Basically everything going in Hate's favor here, getting 7 hits, and down goes Kraken.
Let's there you go. Hey Jar Jar, I was just gonna say I was waiting for the end of this Kraken 2 fight, but GG's on a very strong run.
Thank you. I would just like to point out I picked up the 2nd ribbon because I memory hold where Wall was.
Been there, done that. Definitely been there, done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, talk. You know, how you feeling after this run? Pretty strong finish.
Yeah, it was a really strong finish. My routing could have been better, just like in terms of overall movement. It went a lot back and forth. Lost some time there. The early was iffy, going to that Peninsula of Power grind and trying that out with the Zap. Didn't really work out. Was really hoping to get the ribbon off of the herb, but that just turned out to be Massa. Which is why I ended up going to Lafayette to pick up the ribbon.
Well, Well, because you already had the Vorpal +5 at that point, right?
Yeah, at that point I was swinging a Vorpal +5. I didn't care about the Masa, I just threw it on the Weight Mage in case I needed a swing with it. But aside from that, I didn't really care for it. I was already, in my mind, I was already go mode. I was already level 24, I had a Vorpal +5, I have a ton of defense. If I really need to, I can swap over the Opal bracelet. I have fast, I have temper, I have plenty of charges of both. I have Cure 4, I have Life 2. I'm feeling good. I can go into Topher. I did take it a little safe by getting the Ribbon and the Cure 4 on the Knight. But honestly, I've already had Nightmare Seeds with Topher, and I kind of just... It's a race setting. I'm gonna play it somewhat safe. I'm gonna lose like a minute or two doing that, but I don't think that's necessarily worse than finding out that everyone is dead.
Yeah.
And you losing like 5 minutes.
Yeah. I just lost the race last night because I decided to do the risky strat instead of playing it safe. So, yeah, it's a very strong... Wisdom would support the idea of making sure that you are going to be safe and survive, especially when we have Zap that can be such a nasty thing in Temple of Fiends. But I do want to say, let's throw some GGs in chat for Hate the 13th. Hate finishing up his Chaos fight, 1 hour, 22 minutes, 35 seconds. To give some more shout-outs, we did talk about Rich Bork in 7th place, 1 hour, 18 minutes. Courant finishing in 8th place, 1 hour, 19 seconds. I see you in chat, and very, very good run. Dusk Plume finishing in 9th, 1 hour, 20 minutes. Earthwing Angel at 10th with 1 hour, 21. And Hate the 13th coming in 11th place with 1 hour, 22 minutes, 35 seconds. And we do have Hate with us. GG's, Hate.
Yeah, thank you kindly. Yeah, got one thing to say. At least I'm consistent. Consistently 11.
At least the top half.
I was going to say, at least it's not consistently 25th.
True point there. It was,
So
yeah.
we might have a petition to change your name to Hate the 11th, but for now we'll let it slip.
Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, it was an enjoyable seed. I feel like I know I made a couple of early flubs, banging my head against things a little bit too often, but overall, it obviously could have gone better, could have gone worse, and yeah, I tuned in for the last 10 minutes or so, and yes, I was leaving my thief up front just as entirely as an ablative meat shield. But he was there to cast fast, try and temper something. If he could swing, yay. If not, well, he's there to take damage.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the thief play, so I'm glad to have seen you bring him. I do want to ask both of you though. We were talking about this early on. How much of a shock was it in running a Florin entrance shuffle versus kind of some of your last runs? Florin entrance is such a different way of playing the game. I'm curious how much that played into it. So, Hate, I want to hear from you first because you just joined, and then Jar Jar, you can finish up after that.
Honestly, I am a bad sample size for that because I tend to play in the Rankleo leagues just because I enjoy playing hard seeds and beating my face against walls, apparently. Like, I run Florin Entrance Shuffle for fun. So, yeah, it's something that, like, when I first started, it threw me off a bit. But at this point, as long as I've got my notepad, I am good enough to go with that.
How did you feel, Jar Jar?
I've dabbled in other randomizers before. I've done a little bit of entrance randomizer in, say, Ocarina of Time. So I already have a bit of experience with that. Frankly, I had more of a whiplash going into the experimental no overworld than entrance floor randomizer. I kind of I did one test seed of this and went like, oh, okay, I get the general flow of this. I'll have to take some notes. Basically, it's like, okay, I need to go back here. This entrance is important, etc., etc. I'll bring the key to this entrance. Oh, Tiamat's in Dwarf Cave. Or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and let's put some GGs in chat for Nightmare Phoenix, who just got his finished his chaos fight. After we had Hate finish, we had Budge Mano, who finished in 12th place with 1 hour 23 minutes. Goats Pirate finishing in 13th, 1 hour 24 minutes. And finishing in 14th place, 1 hour 26 minutes, Nightmare Phoenix, also joining us. GG's Nightmare.
Thanks, GG's to everyone else. That was awesome. Y'all went fast. It was great.
So let's give you a minute to just kind of like do the mental dump, and then we do have Walls of Jericho is already on their Tia 2 fight. So I want to allow you the time to do the mental dump, and then we'll try to ask all of you some general questions.
Oh, I've already dumped. I got a nice cold one in hand. I'm good to go.
Oh, I love it.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I had to laugh at that, man.
Oh, Dark Moon, clarifying this is the one fight. So we'll talk a little bit, and then Walls of Jericho. We'll keep up with them as they're heading into that Temple of Fiends. So Nightmare, how is this in terms of a floor and entrance? I'm not sure how much floor and entrance you've done in the past.
Well, my second ever seed that I ever ran with this community was a entrance and floor shuffle, courtesy of Jet, and I had no idea what I was doing. But my very first run, it took me 6 hours to complete the game. So Jet's like, "Here's an entrance floor shuffle. Go ahead, run it, and I'll do a review." So ever since then, I'm like, man, entrance floor shuffles, they're fun and interesting. And I've been practicing for the co-op, and that's even worse entrance floor shuffle with deep towns and insane stuff. So I went into this feeling really confident that I was gonna go fast, and I'm like, man, I got a good pace. Everything's great. And then next thing I know, 13 people have passed me, and I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll say an hour and 20 minutes for an entrance and floor shuffle is very quick. I mean, typically you'd think an entrance and floor is going to take longer than an average seed. And I don't say that to... I mean, the point of that is those are some very fast times. Regardless of experience level, I mean, we keep calling this the Duckling Derby, which is for our newer runners, which it is, absolutely. But it also shows how much our runners have grown and how much experience you guys have gained over time. I have a big question. I'm going to throw it out to all of you. Boxes.
Yeah,
I want to know how you all were feeling about boxes. Especially when you got to that halfway point.
I wanted a ribbon. I wanted a ribbon and an opal bracelet. Those are the two things I wanted, and I got one of them. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna make do with that because I wanted
What did you got?
wanted to run this with 2 ribbons, but yeah, just the one. Just found the one ribbon from I forget where I turned it. The Fame? I don't know.
Yeah, the Lapine was an incentive ribbon.
Yeah.
I can say that the opal bracelet was in one of the dead ends in one of the deep dungeons.
It was definitely a Cardia chest that
It was a
I
Cardia,
dove
yeah.
into, and I'm like, well, I'll just reset out, and then opened up the opal. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna exit out and see.
Yeah. Boxes were not great until I hit that Orpal, and I was like, oh. I was doing fine with the sun +4 because I was running fighter, and I was like, yeah, okay. I didn't find any black belt grinds, which I'm glad I didn't pick up black belt. I know that was a topic that was talked about in chat a little bit.
Well, there was steak and wings in the marsh,
Oh yeah, I guess.
and not only that, but you could probably have grinded early Topher at that point. But
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he was rather early. I've never checked that.
Yeah, there
problem-
wasn't.
Yeah. The problem with
Right.
picking black belt in this seed flag set is that it's alternate B-side tiles. So you can't really count on finding an easy grind, is what I feel about this. Especially with the entrances being shuffled, there's really only so many places that you can actually efficiently find a good grind that isn't the overworld.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting conversation that's come up with how alternate trap tiles, since they're typically larger in size, other than maybe your like 3-eye or your double fighter, really is typically a larger pack that's better for larger parties. Again, it goes down to how the meta has kind of shifted towards the black belt. I'm personally hoping that the pendulum starts to swing back to the middle. But I think you bring up a good point of actually, there's a lot of strategy behind picking your melee going into this. Hey, I gotta ask you. You open lots of boxes, man. Why you open them boxes?
My loot goblin is too strong sometimes. It's a problem I know I've got. I've got the okay, I've just got to try and find a weapon, or I found the 2 ribbons and I was like, okay, good. I would really like to find a better weapon, and eventually I stopped. But yeah, though when I opened the boxes in Bubbles' room, that was because Bubbles needed to be carbonated. Just the same as the validation boxes in Topher had to be opened, which I almost walked back onto that blasted death touch wind or air tile.
Oh, is that what they had? I never saw that.
Is that what they
"No,
had?"
run."
Yep. They
I ran all the time. That white mage with extra luck, man, that was helpful.
Yeah, the airs ate my thief twice.
Ooh.
So hey,
That was what he was there for, so
So I think I can't remember. I think both of our other runners picked up the incentive massa. Why not go for the incentive massa?
Because it was going to be too far out of my way at that point. Well, I don't even know if it would have been too far out of my way, but it would have been out of my way enough. And I had the knight with the X-Cal +3. Bugger it, that's good enough. I've got level 1 temper.
Yeah, I was curious because I figured you were thinking about the fact that there was an objective massa. And in case you're wondering, Matoya had the Vorpal 5 in the Matoya chests.
Yeah, I almost dropped that on the ground. I can't stand using that Vorpal sword.
Wait,
If I did, I'd probably would have taken me another 2 minutes to.
in the Matoya chests. I think those were some of the only chests that I actually didn't bother touching. For crap's sake.
If you listen back to the restream, I shrilled for you. It was painful. But
No,
yeah.
go back!
Oh no, it was something like that.
Well,
I
the
think
longsword +5 did its job until I found something better.
Yeah. Well, I think even just thinking back on this, the incentive ribbon and the incentive massa really changed your approach to boxes, because even as we've been talking about it, we want the ribbon, we want the weapon. Well, you're gonna have a ribbon if you check every incentive item, and you're gonna have a massa if you check every single incentive item. So how many ribbons, and are you able to get by long enough until you get the massa? I think those are some questions. Did those 2 incentive items factor into strategy, or was it more I'm relying on the boxes to get
Strategy? What's that? Yeah, no, it totally didn't. Primarily because more often than not, it always seems like one of them ends up in Lefane, and I hate going to Lefane. It's just a pain in the butt. So yeah, if I can avoid going to Lefane, I'm going to avoid going to Lefane.
I recommend you listen back to this, Pate, because I had a nice little 5-minute spiel on just that topic of Lefane. Go ahead.
In
Nightmare.
Hate's defense, he beat me by 4 minutes. So obviously he made better choices than I did. So you can give him crap about not getting the Vorpal, ignoring about going to Lefane to get the ribbon. He still won by 4 minutes. So that counts for something.
I will, to his credit, I wasn't speaking about him specifically. I was speaking about Lefane in general. Lefane and Ordeal specifically. Because it is something that plays in your head. And a lot of this, it's interesting just hearing you guys talk, hearing about the mind games. And to point out, I think Darkmoon said this earlier, Walls of Jericho finally picking up their loot. Had walked right by it first getting tied to, probably not realizing it was an incentive item. So happy to see Walls of Jericho picking up that loot. I definitely think that would have finished quite a while ago had he picked up that one chest. So having been in that spot, man, I feel for him. But hey, Rock Solid, my co-comp, I've been talking a lot. I'd say hi and let you ask a question if you have one.
Yeah, sure. No, I've been sort of just hanging back and tracking a few things while you guys have been talking. Watching Walls of Jericho sort of unravel this where did I lose that loot but I will ask one question for Hate the 13th. You're somebody that I saw come into the community fairly recently as race crew, and how does it feel to be on the other side of the camera, so to speak?
I always get a little bit nervous until I can pull my head out and, quiet those jitters. But, it's I enjoy it. I mean, that's why I volunteer to be restreamed when I can, because I do enjoy it. And yes, whilst it does make me feel a little nervous, it also kind of makes sure that I'm going to finish the race, because I'm just that big-headed.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. And one of the great things about the Duckling Derby, it's not just that it gives you a chance to race, but it does give you that chance to sort of be on stage, which I know for me at least does affect my play. I'll turn the question over to Jar Jar Thinks. And Jar Jar, we haven't met. This is my first time seeing you on stream. I guess you're newer to the community. How do you feel being sort of in the spotlight?
Well, I started playing Final Fantasy Randomizer right at the start of Duckling Derby, or not Duckling Derby, Duckling Bootcamp. So I'm extremely new to the community. Weird to say that, but yeah, being on stage, it does impact my thought a little bit, but I try to just push through it. It's kind of one of those things where the more you think about it, the more it begins to affect you in a negative way, I find. So I just try to just play. Focus on the game, focus on my tracking, focus on my notes. Rather than, oh god, I'm in front of some 140 people.
Yeah, well, it definitely worked for you tonight with the first on-stream finish, so congratulations for that. I'll keep going here. Nightmare Phoenix, I believe you were in the Duckling Derby when I was earlier this year. How do you feel about this go-round? Do you feel, like you were saying about how you're feeling more comfortable with floor and entrance shuffle, do you just sort of feel a little bit more stable now that you've had that experience?
I mean, my journey because I was like Jar Jar, I came into the community right at the beginning of a Duckling Bootcamp from the previous one, the winter one. And that's where I met yourself. And going through that, I started to feel better. Afterwards, I kind of took a lot of time off of it and only started playing again for spring tournament. Where I got to meet and interact with a bunch of other people. Walls of Jericho was my pod mate, actually, in that. And once I got knocked out of the spring tournament, I jumped into Race Crew and started doing commentary and tracking and watching all the races, playing the races, and now practicing for the co-op, going through this boot camp, going through this derby, I honestly feel like I can't. If no matter where I place in this derby, I'm not going to be able to call myself a duckling anymore after this.
Oh, you know, sometimes it's hard to let go of that the safety net, but yeah, I think certainly seeing you play tonight, yeah, I don't think we're going to be calling you a duckling much longer. So congratulations for some good play tonight, and we're just in time to see Walls of Jericho take on Kraken. So Devious, you wanna call this?
Yeah, absolutely. So Walls of Jericho, plenty fine on levels, plenty fine on equipment. Seeing him throw around, masses equipped well. I've been doing some good magic usage on the previous bosses that he's been going up against. I think this is a little bit of a nerve check, knowing how strong Kraken 2 looks like a little bit weak on some of that armor on some of his characters. Kind of nervous, but I kind of like the move of the ribbon just in case. Trying to make sure buffing up that fighter down at the bottom and getting the red mage fasted up as well. Fighter coming out with 228, which is an okay first swing, but I'm sure he's going to be looking for that fast cast to land. And the fast cast goes out. Actually, both fast casts go out. Heal 3 is a good move. It looks like he's deciding to rely on 2 light warriors instead of 1 for this particular fight. 5 hits for 5 damage, not getting any crits that you'd be looking for. 5 hits for 270. That armor on the fighter is standing up strong, even with the back row from Kraken 2. 10 hits from 400 is going to do most of the damage that you need, Kraken. We got swing. It looks like a massa being swung by that red mage for 100 damage. We got the white shirt getting another fast out, and there's 9 hits for 700 going down on Kraken 2. And now we just have that Tia fight coming up, and the only thing that we know coming up next is a new coming out from Tia. So we'll have to see how his light warriors stand with that.
Yeah, so dealing with a little bit of vanilla trance from those sorcerers there, slowing us down a little bit, but Walls of Jericho is going to make it through, starts this fight off with Tiamat. So let's see what Tiamat's nuke is going to have in store for us. Doing the same thing we've been seeing all night long, getting those fast and those invis casts out. Thinks about a lock, but doesn't go back for it. I think that's going to work out well. As I recall, this Tiamat's not particularly evasive. So the white shirt gets off, the fast goes off before the swing. That's always nice. We're doing good damage. Oh, I'm sorry, the fast came off after the swing, so it'll be even better now. Gonna continue to temper. That's gonna work out well. Not a lot of health on this particular scaling, and there, yeah, Tiamat goes right down. So we're through, and Walls of Jericho makes it through. It's time for the big man.
Yeah, and first of all, thank you to Setobox for raiding with a party of 3. Welcome. We have our final runner on our restream tonight, but there are over 20 other runners who have been running this, which is our 3rd week of the Duckling Derby, a tour and entrance shuffle, and we are stepping up to our final chaos fight. We have all of our runners that have already completed it. We are going to be calling out this last chaos fight, and then we're going to have a nice little talk with our runners to see how they felt about this particular seed and some of the seeds coming up. We have kind of a standard start with a white shirt, swing, and fast. So double fasting on that fighter to make sure that they have enough damage. The Cure 4 coming out from Chaos, which is actually very nice to see first. It's tough to see that 500 hit points just go to waste. But you know what? Better now than when you've done 2,000 damage. So we're seeing Temper, Swing, 5 hits for 240, only 1 hit for 120 damage on that fighter. Chaos is not hitting that fighter very hard, but that fighter returning with 7 hits for over 480 damage. I feel like this is Temper, Swing. 4 hits for over 100, and there's the Zap that we've been talking about, that devastating spell that can only be blocked by a ribbon or a black shirt, taking out 2 light warriors. But now it's just swing. Hundreds of damage in, and that chaos is terminated. Walls of Jericho, who is our fourth runner on stream to finish today. Walls of Jericho finishing in 19th place overall. To get us in our up-to-date, we had Nightmare Phoenix at 14th, Tetron finishing in 15th, Metagloria finishing in 16th, J-Man in 17th, Aldaka in 18th, and as I said, Walls of Jericho in 19th. Joining us here in the booth, GG's Walls of Jericho. I currently see you muted on Discord, so feel free to unmute and tell us how you're feeling. And Walls of Jericho might have stepped away for a second. Hopefully when they get back, we'll have them jump in. But I do want to say, I see Kaldaka in chat. I do want to ask, well, first of all, let's talk about Duckling Derby. Do any of you know what the flags are for next week?
Wait, there's flags next week?
There's a next week? What?
I'm pretty sure there's a fourth race. You guys are going to have to race in.
Man, my birthday was yesterday. I'm approaching that hill, and I'm like, I'm just going to sit down and wait.
Whereas I'm just of the camp that time is an illusion. It's a shared hallucination that we're all having, and, I'm not going to go into those weird things.
Well, apparently, there's a race at some point coming in the future that our runners will be running with some sort of flags that they'll try to go fast with. So I have seen a little bit in chat, just kind of talking about co-op. Have any of you thought about joining up for this upcoming co-op tournament?
Oh, wait, I know. I put it on my brain. But I know what the flags are.
Oh, for next week?
Oh, yeah.
What are they?
They're like the pod seat flags, but harder.
But harder. Ooh. And we also have Rich Bork in chat also saying ST pods, but harder. 2 forced with guaranteed Vorpal. That's nice. I like them pod flags. Those pod flags are good.
What does that mean, guaranteed Vorpal?
It's incentivized.
We can do that?
Oh, yes.
Sure, why not? There's a lot of cool things that's been happening with the randomizer lately.
Yeah, with the changes that came in with 4.2.0 and 4.2.1, they have added the ability to have all kinds of different incentive items, and I love it.
It looks like we do have Walls of Jericho with us. GG's Walls of Jericho.
Yeah, thank you. I almost thought about hitting forfeit like 30 minutes ago, but stuck through it.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely tough to talk about the loot.
So I think I didn't do any practice runs, and I was kind of running through floors, and I think maybe 10 minutes or so after I ran through the sky floor with the loot, I kind of had this, I looked at my sheet and I was like, oh, sky is incentivized. I was like, oh, I think I ran through the floor. I was like, oh, I would not be writing down middle floors because I totally forgot. So I ended up going through the air castle and sort of hoping that that would lead to a marsh split, which it did. And I was kind of hoping that both of the items I need would be down here. But no, it ended up being the herb, and I ended up wiping down there as well. So that was fun. I did close to the same thing last race too, where I was going really good and I just missed the item. So
yeah, I mean, it's especially hard to say. I mean, you were the first. I'm fairly confident you were the first one to make it to the Sky 2 floor that had the loot.
Yes, he was.
And just you were doing a very strong run, and having been someone that's done that so many times, I know it can be disheartening, but absolutely a good finish. And like you said, you stuck it in. It's not a fun thing to feel, especially when you're on restream. But definitely glad that you were able to finish
Thanks. It's a lesson to learn. Won't make that mistake again. Maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, as we keep saying, everybody's forgotten to talk to Bicky at some point, or forgotten to translate a loop, or bounced off a river. I mean, there's nothing new under the sun when it comes to mistakes here in Final Fantasy Random. Roxal, do you have any last questions before we start moving to final thoughts?
Well, I'll just ask a quick one of Walls of Jericho, because I know, as Nightmare Phoenix mentioned, Jericho, you were in the spring tournament and actually did make it to brackets. How do you feel that experience? Because a lot of times people will do the Duckling Derby before they do spring tournament, but you jumped in, sort of both feet first. How do you feel having done that first before coming into the Duck Derby?
I did the Duck Derby in the winter too, but it's sort of a lot more calm, which is almost good and almost bad, because I did a lot of practice runs before, and now I'm just like, oh, whatever, we'll go. But it's just a lot more relaxing experience. Like, doing the spring tournament, I was restreamed a bunch, so I kind of got over the anxiety of being restreamed. I'm really glad this community puts this stuff together. Thanks to everyone, 1,000 times.
Yeah, well said. And I think Nightmare Phoenix was saying the same thing. Just, you feel a lot calmer. And I can definitely remember in my first Duckling Derby, I was just a big bundle of nerves, and for spring tournament as well. So yeah, it's got to be nice to have that experience. Thanks for running a good race. Thanks for toughing it out. And, it takes a lot of willpower to go back when you have missed something and to just dig it out and get the seed done. And you did that. So congrats for that kind of perseverance. That's going to be it for me, Devious. I think we can go ahead and get this wrapped up with final thoughts.
Yeah, sounds good. We're going to start with our first runner to finish tonight, Jar Jar Thinks, and then we'll go in order, just in finishing order. Just some final thoughts. Go ahead, Jar Jar.
Harry did not want to be found.
Yes. I heard many times, you would hear many times from me, just find Carrie. Just find Carrie. Is that all your final thoughts?
Yeah,
That's great.
she didn't want to be found.
Man, a few words.
I love it. Hate the 13th.
Thanks to Devious and Rock Solid for doing comms, and to RPG Limit Break for, letting us invade their channel and taking over. And I can't see who is doing Restream. I think it's Dark Moon is doing Restream. And I can't tell who is doing the tracking right now.
Also Dark Moon.
Yeah,
Well-
Dark Moon and Woat are sharing some tracking duties.
Okay.
But primarily Dark Moon.
Well, double thanks to Dark Moon then for doing this. And yeah, it's a fun thing to do. I love the community, and I'm very glad that we've got the Duckling Kit program, because it made it so easy to get in on. So yeah. And Walls of Jericho, your White Mage sprite is too stinking cute. That's all.
Thank you.
Nightmare Phoenix.
Yeah, I just want to say, Jericho, great sticking in there. It was still a good time, even no matter what. Thanks to everyone for putting this on and giving us a chance to attempt to entertain. I hope you entertained. I know I attempted to. I'm really hoping I did, at least. Otherwise, don't forget to check out the randomizer if this is interesting. We're very friendly, and we're all willing to help. So come in and ask questions and get involved if you want.
And Walls of Jericho.
I'm going to echo what everybody else said and just thank the community for putting all this on. It's an incredibly welcoming community. Congrats to everyone else on the runs. I'll be watching the video later, and I hope in the next race I don't miss an item that sets me back a bunch of time like I have on my last two. Thanks.
I'll definitely be pulling for you, Walls of Jericho. Well, that's. I mean, I feel like that's it for me. I'm gonna toss it over to Rock Solid to get us out of here. But yeah, it's fun. Rock Solid, you're an awesome co-com, man. Take us away and lead us out of this thing.
Okay, well, I aim to please Devious, and always a great thank you as well for the excellent co-commentary. This has been a presentation of the Final Fantasy Randomizer community. This was day 3 or race 3 of the Duckling Derby. If you like what you're seeing, make sure that you check out some of the links that have popped up here in chat. We've got different runners that you can follow, and of course the commentary team as well, also often broadcasts. Want to give a thanks to our broadcast partners, RPG Limit Break in particular, hosting tonight's race. We also have Speed Gaming 3 was hosting some of the other runners, so you can go and watch the VOD back of that if you want to see 4 more attempts at this, well, basically the same race that you just watched from a different angle, so to speak. Also want to mention there's a YouTube channel for the Final Fantasy Randomizer, and we also have a Twitch channel now. So you can check that out. Lots of interesting content to be seen there. So once again, thanks again to our race crew. Everybody's been named so far, and want to tell everybody that we appreciate having you along with us. So until next time, keep your head up, and don't forget to go fast.